You know what? To make up for last year, let's extend our little horror theme a bit longer. Plus, I've been having a lot of fun going through these, so yeah, let's keep it going. So I'm sure we all have the same story, right? Growing up, you would have your small handful of games to rotate through over and over again. And yeah, Regeneration was one of them. It was always a favorite because my dad and I were huge fans of the movie, so to have a game to go along with that made it an easy pick for any day. But that day was probably 15 years ago now, so it's been a good bit since I last played it, so let's revisit one of my childhood classics. But first, this is combat overview. Here we go over the general controls, the main mechanics, who or what we use them on, and then seeing how it all comes together. We have our trusty chainsaw to rip and tear through some deadites. Now, unlike Lollipop Chainsaw, this is our starter. So yeah, don't be afraid to use this since it's our main weapon. You can hold that input to charge up this launcher. Now sadly, it's not as snappy like Z2 Chaos where you can combo into it with these. Instead, Ash will hunker down to wind it up first, which yeah, takes longer than it should, but it does deal good damage and of course launches, which always hype to see. But this is easily interrupted most times. If this had armor, it would have been worth tossing out, but it's pretty passable. There are delays here too. You do more damage than our basic loop, so if you have the opening to do so, then this will instant kill most enemies. There's 3 delay enders to aim for, but they all have the same range and they all instant kill, so they're interchangeable. Alright, not only that, but we have ourselves some guns to work with. The pistol, which has the fastest fire rate, but is very weak. Still a very good way to juggle enemies. Now don't let the tutorial level give you the wrong idea. You only have the pistol here and well, yeah, it might remind you of DMC2, but no, it's just easing you in and soon we'll get some more options. So yeah, don't rely on the pistol to kill deadites since it's mostly chip damage, and again, they're a solid way to extend those combos like how DMC1 taught us. Next, the sawed-off shotgun, or better known as our boomstick. Deals more damage in comparison, but you gotta be up close and personal. Still useful to juggle enemies, but keep in mind it has a longer reload animation to balance it out. And trust me, I tested some potential cancels. I tried the DMC1 tech, I tried Contra's quick swaps, I tried guard canceling it, and yeah, nothing came up, but we have on the fly weapon swapping. And real quick, our final gun is this bomb lance. It'll stick to enemies and then explode, which launches them for a follow-up, either with other guns or some other shenanigans. Its downtime is super long, and again, no cancels, so yeah, don't expect this to be spammable. So all in all, guns are pretty balanced and are fun sub-weapons. Now there's actually enders chaining into them, nothing too wild here, they all end by sending them away. You might have noticed by now, but we have more options to swap between for our main weapon. We got ourselves a harpoon, a grappling hook pretty much. It doesn't pull you in, but it yanks enemies towards you like Zoe 2 and Nano Breaker. Once brought in, can fire away with that pistol for chip damage, or use the shotgun or the bomb lance to launch them, setting up some juggles. And again, the bomb will explode to relaunch later, or you can catch their landing with their chainsaw too. You can also detach them manually, which also launches, and you can harpoon already juggled enemies to continue the loop if you want. And finally, the flamethrower. This one I haven't used too much since the chainsaw is our go-to opener, and the harpoon is used to keep the pace going, pulling far off enemies. It's our pest launcher, and an overall fun juggle extender. Flamethrower doesn't really have that it thing about it, like the other two in my experience. Cool damage over time once burned, but yeah, it has to compete with other fun weapons. But we're not alone on the field because our main man, Sam, is there with us. He's our sidekick that, well, you literally kick around. Once locked on and press up on the D-pad, you'll punt him. Helps with puzzles, but also in combat since he'll lock someone down or instant kill him as you're off fighting someplace else. He's our support, which is pretty cool. Onto defenses, we have this guard by holding L1, locks you in place and will snap you towards the attacking enemy. I think it does a tiny bit of chip damage, but nothing too noticeable. And it doesn't guard cancel any of your attacks either. While guarding, if you press circle, you will do this solid crowd control get off me attack. Now if you do that move as soon as you block their attack instead, you will do this counter that will launch afterwards. It's a small window, so it actually takes some fast reactions. Sad to say, but never use it too much. The game is best played swinging first instead of standing still. waiting for a group of deadites to corner you. But hey, still cool, we pretty much have a Ninja Gaiden counter here. While locked on, jumping will instead do these side steps and rolls. Now it's not only Musha levels of spacing and the roll has no iframes, which is, yeah, pretty so-so. But I mention it because attacking out of these with your chainsaw will do a launcher. Now trying to follow up with another chainsaw attack is too slow, but we can combo it with our guns. And then do that neutral jump which sets up our helm splitter to catch him mid-air. So yeah, just another way to start some juggles. Looking at the HUD, the red meter is our health, and the spine lining our screen is our inner evil. Once it's full, we can pop it by pressing down on the D-pad, becoming Evil Ash. It has full iframes on activation, knocks back nearby enemies, you'll move quicker and hit a lot harder. Not just your chainsaw, but your guns too. Thing is, you don't gain hyper armor, so you don't feel as powerful as you think at times, and it doesn't refill health like DT would. That extra damage is not too bad though to deal with bosses. To feel any of these meters, you just gotta take out enemies and they'll drop these orbs at random. Cool thing is though, juggling enemies gives you guaranteed drops, and the more hits you land means the more orbs drop. So you can mash away to an extent if you want, but there's incentives to use the game's mechanics, which is pretty cool. When it comes to enemies, we have skeletons who fill the screen to punish you for standing still for too long, either with their projectiles or by rushing you down. Overall, just easy targets to get rid of. Of course, the regular deadites to style on, which some have weapons that'll block your attacks, knocking you back. You can call Sam to keep him busy to set up a finisher, or use a helm splitter to counter their guard. The harpoon opens them up as well. Speaking of the harpoon, there's some who fly, and yeah, you can use this to hook them in, getting them close enough for that shotgun follow-up. In general, there's going to be some far-off ones can use a harpoon, rockets, or have Sam deal with them. There's ways to get rid of these in a few ways and fast. It won't be like Gungrave where it's a mash fest. Now as you heavily damage them, you'll see this green vapor appear. This means we can do this glory kill on them. Just get up close and press triangle to do this finisher. And the animations are different depending if they're standing on the floor, sometimes depending on the weapon. Yeah, it's a neat little detail. But yeah, this instant kills and gives full iframes. Most times it'll interrupt whatever nearby enemies are doing as this happens, just like Sekiro for example. It doesn't cancel into it as you're mid swing, so you need to wait out for your attack to fully come out and then go into the finisher. When it comes to the bosses, they aren't half bad. The first boss has you do some hops and side steps to avoid their electric attacks, then you gotta watch where you stand to avoid that electrified water. For the first boss, it's pretty solid having used everything we just learned. This one does sweeps, so you have to avoid it with jumps, and use side steps to avoid their charge, and toss a rocket at them once you open them up. There's only like 4 or 5 bosses in total, but they aren't half bad. And that's Evil Dead Regeneration. Now I know why I was able to run through this game so much back then. For one, it matches the same horror and comedy mix of the movies, and it's this what if story too. Instead of going straight into Army of Darkness, Ash kinda got tossed into the psych ward for telling him what happened that night. So yeah, it's this offshoot sequel that you can actually play, and it's pretty short too, like 3 hours short. It's a pretty get in, get out kind of game that just keeps the ball rolling, always giving you a new weapon and adding at least one new enemy per stage. There's no guard or jump cancels, but we do have on the fly weapon swapping and little juggle combos to pull off. We don't get a lot of new moves as things progress since it's a 3-hour game. There's not even a shop to buy moves. You pretty much start the game with everything you need. But again, they give you new toys frequently to keep things fresh. Kinda like Evil West in that way. Damn, I wish the new Evil Dead game was more like Evil West for some more up close and brawly playstyle with a mix of wild guns. Hell, it could have been in the Wild West too. Why not? He's been to the medieval times, so this wouldn't be too far-fetched. It would have been awesome to see that, but it followed the recent trend of other classic horror franchises getting their own games. Either way, it's an average game when compared to everything else, but it's a must play for Evil Dead fans, and there's still enough here for action game fans to delve into. The overall loop is noticeable, but again, it's mixed up enough throughout. And the options you do have lets you do some stuff, and there's reasons not to mash because certain enemies just won't allow you, and you're rewarded for juggling. And the bosses are solid too, using a bit of everything you have, plus it's a very compact game that doesn't waste your time. All in all, it's just a solid, casual, friendly action game that you can beat the same session you started it. So yeah, give it a try when you can, you won't regret it.
When you get to hell, Tell him Ash sent you.